So for the container demo, essentially, I'm gonna briefly show you like 3 use cases that we use Docker to kind of integrate the CI, CD, and CT, which is continuous testing workflow. We heavily use and leverage standard open source DevOps tools, things like Docker, Vagrant, Ansible scripts, and essentially, we want to use standardized tooling so that it makes it easy to extend and also to maintain. Now, the tests themselves are written, as Jakob mentioned, in a variety of languages, along with the associated, unit test frameworks that goes along with each language. So things like Java has, JUnit, TestNG, Python has PyTest, Ruby has RSpec, and et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, we integrate the different kind of tests, the tooling and the ecosystem into our underlying framework. Now, the second scenario is essentially the same layout, the same idea, but instead this time is more typically geared towards, like, for example, like QA or developer needs to debug, right? The typical dev or QA use case. For example, that when things are running headlessly, invisibly inside of a container, you don't see anything in real time. It kind of makes things a little bit more harder to debug. So in those cases, that use case is being addressed as well. So for this example, we have Tomcat in a container as usual, like the previous example, and then we have a locally installed the framework / tooling SDK. It's no longer inside of a container, right? Now we can pull that out onto the local machine and run it from there also. And that's more of a typical developer use case. So it looks something like this. So these pieces are now completely outside of the container and just locally on one machine. So let me just quickly.
It can be well on other machines as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So I'm just, just trying to keep things as simple as possible, so that we're not trying to make things too complicated and confusing. That's why. So let me just quickly show you now. So we have the Tomcat running in a container right there, and so we don't need to relaunch it again because it's running. So now we launch the functional test locally, right? So I'm just going to hit this, do the same thing that the first example did, but this time we see everything in real time. Okay, so now it's done. So let's just quickly go over here. What was it? Just quickly show you. It's the same report, identical report and everything, except the timestamps are different, right? So now essentially it ran through the same workflow. It took snapshots along the way of each child page, sub-pages, and then just generates a final report at the end. Okay.